Sir, Principal Sir, am I allowed to start the program, sir? Sir, kindly unmute your mic once. Principal Sir, shall we start the program?
Sir. Shall we start the program, sir? Principal, sir?
Sir, Principal Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Shall we start the program, sir?
Yes, with pleasure, ma. Please.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. A very good morning, one and all. I am Dr. B. Muhammad Ishaq, Associate Professor of Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis at Shantaram College of Pharmacy, Nandyal, Kurnool District, Andhra Pradesh. I take it as a privilege to welcome you all for this marvelous event, international webinar on pharmacological screening methods, conducting by Shantaram College of Pharmacy. I feel blessed to be the part of Shantaram College of Pharmacy, a phenomenal institute renowned for its excellence, imparting best education in a pharmacy field since a decade. This all could happen possible without the support and contribution of our management, more specifically our beloved chairman, Dr. M. Shantiramudu Garu, a man with simplicity and foresight who always tries to be the welfare of institution and students. We forward with his blessings for the welcoming the dignitaries. I proudly welcome our principal, convener of this event, Dr. C. Madhusudan Chetty, a man who have a long vision and knowledge, who always encourages the ideas of staff and students and tries his best to bring them into action. Please welcome, sir. I also welcome the co-convener of the program, Dr. M. Srinivasan, sir, Director, R&D, who always stands frontline in making an event a grand success. Welcome, sir. I also welcome the coordinators of the event, Dr. Shivaya, Head Department of Pharmacology, and Mr. Ravi Kumar, Professor, Department of Pharmaceutics, who has worked hard for this event. Welcome, users. With a huge respect, I welcome today's keynote speaker, Dr. Kavimani sir, Head Department of Pharmacology, Professor Professor at Mother Teresa Postgraduate and Research Institute of Health Sciences, Pondicherry. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us, sir, despite of your busy schedule. Thank you once again, sir, and welcome you. I extend my warm welcome to all the HODs, teaching and non-teaching staff and students of Shantaram College of Pharmacy. Lost in the order, but never has its meant. I heartily welcome the students, staff, and other participants from various colleges across the nation to this webinar. Welcome you all. So without wasting much time, let's start the event with the traditional lamp lightening ceremony.
Kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampadam shubham kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampadam shatru buddhi vinashaya deepajyotirnamostute deepajyotirnamostute shubham kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampadam shubham kurutvang kalyanam arogyam dhanasampadam.
Thank you, Vanada. Now I request Dr. M. Srinivasan sir, Director R&D, to give his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to all the technical resource persons, our principal, Madhusudan Chetty sir, and HODs, the staff members and participants. Good morning to all. It's my privilege and honor for taking this program and making this a great event and available stewards in the field of pharmacy to enlighten the young minds and bringing the various information international wise to the footprints of the student community. And it's my immense pleasure and teamwork we are able to take this opportunity and conduct this international webinar and successfully able to implement this with a very short notice. The speakers, Professor S. Kavimani sir, who is a very senior, having more than 30 years of experience and Central Council member of a PCI, who is actually is a person behind the successful inauguration of this. And we also thank Mr. Dr. Gollapalli Srinivasa sir, who is research working as a freelance scientist for the research as a research consultant now. And these two persons are the driving forces for us. And the other two international speakers, Professor Tippeswamy and Professor Yasodhi Krishna, who are going to join tomorrow. So the schedule for today is the first session going to start with 10:30 to 12 o'clock session with Professor Kavimani sir. And afternoon session, our Gollapalli Srinivas are going to take the session. And tomorrow, the morning session by 10:30, Dr. Yasodhi Krishna, who is working as associate professor and program leader in the United States International University in Nairobi, Kenya. Another professor in the afternoon session, Dr. Tippeswamy, associate professor, head department of biomedical sciences, Shakra University, Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and coordinating and supporting for this program to enlighten and I thank all the program coordinators and HODs for contributing so much for this program to successfully run. And I thank our management, Dr. M. Shanti Ramudu sir, who is behind the driving force, who is enlightening us, motivating us to bring best to the student community in the rural areas of Kurnool district. And Lord most not the least, our Director Ashok Kumar sir, a dynamic person who is always supporting us in every front to make each and every program to be a great success. Our principal sir is, I thank very much for giving us this opportunity to make this program, take this program and making this happen today with a good number of students, national and international wise. And I thank the technical experts, Ishak, our coordinators, everybody. So I welcome the student community, staff and researchers, and take this opportunity and enlighten your brains and make our nation a bright research center, because the teaching is just one part of our curriculum, and which is the research which makes the nation feel proud among the international forums. And I thank one and all for giving this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your nice opening remarks. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request our beloved principal, sir, Dr. C. Madhusudan Jetty Garu, to address this e-gathering.
Great respect to our beloved chairman, Dr. Santhiramadu Garu, and our director admin, Ashok Kumar Garu. I welcome the dignitaries. There is Dr. Kavimani Garu, Dr. Srinivasulu Garu, Dr. Yasodhi Krishna, Dr. Tippeswamy, those who accepted our invitation with by spending their valuable time. First of all, I would like to say that is this webinar is entirely different when compared to what we conducted from the Santhiram College of Pharmacy. So earlier we are going with a theme, and we are conducting the webinars with available speakers with multidisciplinary. But this seminar is especially for only pharmacological screening for new bioactive molecules. So really is a wonderful session, and with specialization with only pharmacology, and moreover that this speakers that means one special character, that is one of my guru, Dr. Kavimani Garu, my friend from pharmacology department, or my Srinivasulu Garu, and my student Yasodhi Krishna, and my friend this is Tippeswamy. Is so is a guru, friend, and student who's really involved in this great seminar here. So there is a wonderful thing. So as actually this initiation taken by our Department of Pharmacology, Dr. Shivaya, and automatically there's my professors, Dr. M. Srinivasulu and Ravi Kumaru is taken initiation to conduct the same. I am very much thankful and for their great efforts. Here, the Shantiram College of Pharmacy is doing wonderful jobs with nice cooperation of all my faculty members. Here, we are conducting one is R&D side, one is academic side, another one is activity side. What we are conducting with teamwork of my faculty members. Really is thankful to my team, each and every faculty members. See here, the globe is entire globe is with many different species. See, is the identification of the species for a particular therapeutic activity is very most difficult task to bring out the society, right? Moreover, that our Indian culture, that is a Ayurveda system, is buried like anything else. There is since the last hundreds of years. So is the wonderful healthcare system in India. So of course, in this the pharmacological screening is might be very useful to be bring out that valuable therapeutic phytoconstituents is very important. And moreover, that here the globe is facing with many pandemic diseases like corona, maybe a future bubonic or maybe something gabonic, whichever maybe is a new diseases are coming out. So in this sense, in this connection, so our healthcare professionals, like especially the researchers of phytoconstituents, that there is a pharmacist has to be very keen interest to be identified the right targeted therapeutic molecule for to fight against a particular disease. Very important. So that's why there is a main motto of that we have conducted. It's a Department of Pharmacology is a webinar on screening of new bioactive molecules. So really is a wonderful topic, and I hope you all the participants will be utilize the opportunity to know the new techniques and how the new molecules are identifying in the pharma industry is a very good thing. So Dr. Kavimani is really is my guru and my friend. We requires any pharmacological aspects doubts is clarifying our doubts. So really, moreover that one thing I want to be announced, that is Dr. Kavimani is now is become as a Central Council member of Pharmacy Council of India. Is a good opportunity, a good thing. Recently has got an appointment. So we appreciate for your efforts in the academic side, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And my Dr. Srinivas is having a vast experience in the industry. So like various innovations in the R&D, especially new bioactive molecules, his experience might be useful for our participants and students, the researchers, useful for their future career aspects in the research. And Dr. Yashoda Krishna and Tippeswamy is from Kenya and as well as Saudi Arabia might be very give nice informations to for further added things from the international one. So hope this seminar might be very successful in a grand manner for our researchers and academicians and as well as my dear students. Thank you very much. Hope for all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening the importance of the webinar and bringing all the new things into the limelight. Thank you so much. So before going to listen the plenary lecture of today's keynote speaker, Dr. Kavimani Garu, I would like Dr. Shivaya to introduce him for the sake of audience. Over to you, Shivaya.
Okay. Okay, myself, Dr. K. Shivaya, Department of Pharmacology, Shantiram College of Pharmacy, Nandyal. So I am very happy to introduce Dr. S. Kavimani Garu. So Dr. S. Kavimani is currently working as a professor and head of the Department of Pharmacology at Mother Teresa Postgraduate and Research Institute of Health Sciences at Puducherry. He graduated from Madras Medical College at Madras. He did his PG and PhD from Jodhpur University, Calcutta. He qualified GATE exam in 1991. He has 27 years of teaching and research experience. He guided 42 PhD students. Still, he is currently guiding 7 PhD students. and he has a total 230 publications in national and international because of his credit. Has written 2 books and 1 chapter also is written that is published in elsewhere, and he is member of expert committee for the Pharmacy Council of India and All India Council of Technical Education, and also he is one of member in the National Board of Accreditation. He is a member of Board of Academic Committee in Pondicherry University, MS University, and Jawaharlal Technological University, Kakinada, and Annamalai University. He is also as a visiting faculty member in University and MS University. This is the brief introduction about Dr. S. Kavimani sir, and I'm very, very thank you to our beloved principal, Dr. M. Madhusudan Sethi sir garu, and our director, M. Srinivasa sir garu, and all HOD of Shantiram College of Pharmacy and teaching and non-teaching staff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shivaya. So I feel we are really fortunate enough today that we are going to listen. We have an opportunity to listen a great teacher and motivator, Dr. Kavimani garu. So let's not waste the time and let's have the lecture of sirs. I request all the audience to stay with us by keeping your mics in mute. And if you have any doubts, kindly note them down. And at the end of the sir's lecture, the session will be open for the discussion. Thank you, one and all. Now I request Dr. Kavimani sir to kindly proceed with this lecture. Please, sir.
Very good morning to one and all. First of all, I would like to congratulate the principal, Dr. Madhusudan Sethi, for arranging this wonderful international webinar. The theme of pharmacological screening methods for newer bioactive components. The Shantiram College of Pharmacy is organizing various webinars often. Some of the webinars I also attended. And my congratulations goes to the entire team. I would like to thank Srinivasa garu, Ravi Kumar garu, Ashok Kumar garu, and Shivaya garu also for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And the theme of this webinar is pharmacological screening methods. So if you want to screen the compounds first, the drug has to be discovered. So my topic will be new directions for drug discovery and repurposing it. You know what is meant by drug discovery. So now, what is meant by repurposing? The existing drugs can be used for some other purposes. That is called repurposing, especially in this pandemic situation in COVID-19. It is not possible to discover newer and newer molecules within this short period of time. We have to utilize the existing drugs for the treatment of COVID-19. So that is my aim of this lecture. So in this lecture, I will be discussing about the doctrine of signature that is followed by the traditional methods of drug discovery. Then modern methods of drug discovery, that is drug discovery processes based on physiology of a particular disease. For that, I have taken cancer as a model. That is followed by the repurposing of existing drug molecules for the treatment of COVID-19 and also for the treatment of cancer. So this is abstract of my lecture. So with this introduction, I am going for the doctrine of signature. So what do you mean by doctrine of signature? The nature has given some kind of identification point. For example, shape, color, taste, etc. By observing those characters, we can predict the possible pharmacological action. For example, here I give an example of a tomato, cross section of tomato. This is cross section of tomato, which looks like the cross section of our heart. The tomato have 4 chambers, and our heart is also having 4 chambers. The antioxidant lycopene, which is present in the tomato, can able to prevent the congestive cardiac failure. It is the prophylactic measure. Lycopene is prophylactically used to avoid the congestive cardiac failure. The second example I would like to give is the walnut. So this is the structure of brine, this is the structure of walnut. You can see the ridges which is present in the brine is also present in the walnut. Not only the shape and morphological character, the content of walnut is around 20 neurotransmitters are present in the walnut. As you know that some of the neurotransmitters are excitatory, some of the neurotransmitters are inhibitory. So by balancing this excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitter, walnut is acting as a brain tonic. Now the third example I would like to give is our carrot, sliced section of the carrot. We can see the sliced section of the carrot looks like our eye. The rods and cones present in the retina, the color is exactly resembles the carrot. The carrot contains a substance called carotenoids, which is used for the treatment of night blindness, or is called the xerophthalmia. Next example is our garilla. Garilla is nothing but bitter cord, Momordica cerevisia. The ripe fruit of Momordica cerevisia exactly looks like our pancreas. As you know that pancreas is the source of insulin. And also any sweet principle can be nullified by the bitter, or any bitter principle can be nullified by the sweet. So in this Momordica cerevisia is a very good drug for the treatment of diabetes mellitus. This is brachmi. This looks like our brain. See, this is spinal cord. This is the brain. So here also, this is looks like brain, and this is looks like spinal cord. It is a nervine tonic. This is called the kidney beans. It looks like our kidney. Here you can see the hilum. This is also hilum of the kidney. Some of the antibiotics are nephrotoxic in nature, like aminoglycosidyl antibiotics. So if you take any nephrotoxic drugs, it has to be supplemented with the kidney beans so that you can avoid the toxic reactions in the kidney. So far, I have given 6 examples. This gives an idea about the doctrine of signature. In ancient times, the people have been using the alternative system of medicine based on this doctrine of signature. What is traditional methods of drug discovery? And now you can see here the salicine, which is an alkaloid, methyl salicylate, which is an oil of wintergreen. Both of them were obtained from the willow bark. So the salicine on hydrolysis and oxidation, or the methyl salicylate on hydrolysis, produced a substance called salicylic acid. It is a naturally occurring component. The salicylic acid cannot be taken by oral route because it is an acid. It is a form of ointment, Whitfield ointment for various skin-related problems. When this salicylic acid acetylated, it yields acetyl salicylic acid, which is called as aspirin. The aspirin is an analgesic, but not very good anti-inflammatory drugs. So what happened? Is slightly modified to produce ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is a potent anti-inflammatory drugs. But what happened? Most of the anti-inflammatory drugs produced gastric hemorrhage as a side effect. So the gastric hemorrhage can be avoided if you can selectively block the COX-2, cyclooxygenase 2, which was later done by means of celecoxib, etoricoxib, valadicoxib. That means started from salicine, methyl salicylate to salicylic acid to aspirin, then second generation, ibuprofen, phenylbutazone, etc. And fourth generation is slide diclofenac sodium. The fifth generation is specific COX-2 inhibitor, celecoxib, etoricoxib, etc. So this is the revolution in the drug discovery process started from the traditional methods of drug discovery. Now, is it possible to produce any newer drugs from the human body? Yes, it is possible. If you see this diagram, we have number of bacterial gene clusters in our body. You can see here in airway itself, 381 gene clusters are there. In GIT 1840, in oral cavity 1839, in skin 512, bacterial gene clusters were present in our body. Now, one of the molecules which is discovered based on gene cluster identification is the lactocillin. Lactocillin is an antibiotic which is obtained from the Lactobacillus gazzari. This microorganism is present in the vaginal cavity. It's a common resident of the vagina. So what happens? This lactocillin can able to kill the pathogenic bacteria that are found in vagina due to improper sanitary conditions. Some of the peoples in rural areas are creating the awareness about the use of sanitary napkins during the menstruation period. Due to unhygienic conditions in the vaginal cavity, there may be chances of growing of microorganism. So that kind of microorganism, pathogenic microorganism, can be killed by naturally occurring antibiotic, lactocillin. Now the human chorionic gonadotropin, you know that during the pregnancy, there is no menstruation. What is the reason? The fetoplacental unit can able to synthesize human chorionic gonadotropin. This human chorionic gonadotropin can able to maintain the estrogen and progesterone concentration throughout the pregnancy. If there is any drop of estrogen and progesterone, then automatically the menstruation occurs. So this human chorionic gonadotropin, which is isolated, obtained from the urine of the pregnant woman, can able to induce ovulation. One of the reason for the infertility, in human is anovulation, no ovulation. So that ovulation problem can be solved of the human chorionic gonadotropin. There is a substance called menotrophin, which is obtained from the post-menopausal human urine. That is the richest source of follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone that helps to stimulate the healthy ovaries to make eggs. Healthy ovaries, the ovaries should be healthy. So the ovulation can be stimulated by administration of the menotrophin. Human insulin. Previously, we have been using the insulin which is obtained from the beef, porcine, but it produced a severe kind of allergic reaction. So after the development of DNA recombinant technology, we have been producing the human by using E. coli as a vector. The urokinase, which is obtained from the human kidney cells, is a very good thrombolytic agent which can prevent the myocardial infarction. The growth hormone, which is obtained by recombinant technology, is used for the treatment of growth-related problem. So it is possible to obtain the drugs also from the human origin. What is the modern methods of drug discovery? The drug discovery process begins with a disease rather than the treatment. That means we have to pinpoint what is the genetic problems involved or what is the biological component involved in the pathophysiology of a particular disease, so that if we know the exact pathophysiology, it is possible to develop the drugs. The drug target can be developed if you know the exact reason for a particular disease. That now I am going to explain the a drug discovery process based on the pathophysiology. For that, I have taken cancer as a model. Here, 6 processes were involved in the cell processes. One is sustaining the proliferative signaling, evading growth suppressors, activating invasion and metastasis, enabling replicative immortality, inducing angiogenesis, and resisting cell death. So these are all the 6 biological capabilities of a particular cell. I'm going to explain one by one. First one is enabling replicative immortality. For that, I have differentiated a normal cell with the cancer cell. See here, the normal cells, the end of the chromosomes, there is a telomere. The size of the telomere is getting reduced after each and every cell division. This is the telomere. Here, the size is getting reduced. At one stage, there is no telomere at all. When there is no telomere, it won't undergoes division. That means proliferation is controlled. So automatically the cell undergoes apoptosis. Apoptosis is nothing but a programmed cell death. Programmed cell death or as a natural cell death. For example, the lifespan of RBC is 120 days. For every 120 days, the RBCs are produced and destroyed. So each and every cell has a lifespan. Whereas in case of cancer cell, we can see here the size of the telomere is remaining unchanged. This is the size of the telomere is remaining unchanged. That means there is no apoptosis at all. What is cancer? Cancer is nothing but uncontrolled proliferation of the cells. So when the proliferation is uncontrolled, automatically there will be newer and newer growth of cells. That is called the neoplasm, otherwise it is called the cancer. So what do you have to do now? We have to induce apoptosis. Apoptosis is nothing but programmed cell death. So these apoptosis can be promoted either by extracellular stimuli, example caspase, or intracellular stimuli, example APAP1 and procaspase 9. So 3 genes I'm saying, one is caspase, another one is APAP1, the third one is procaspase 9. So these 3 can be stimulated so that the apoptosis will be promoted. So the caspase exists in all cells, inactive precursor. It is an inactive precursor, or it is procaspase, otherwise it is called procaspase. So what we have to do? We have to activate that procaspases so that apoptosis can be promoted. So if the apoptosis is promoted, that leads to chromatin condensation, DNA fragmentation, protein cleavage, and membrane permeability. So that automatically the cell will die. So this is enabling replicative immortality. The second part is inducing angiogenesis. Angio means blood vessel. Genesis means production of, that is formation of this. So when there is a newer growth or neoplasm, for that cells require nutrient. The supply of nutrient is possible only through the blood vessels. So the newer and newer blood vessels has to be formed. Here we can see the new growth of blood vessels in case of the tumor. So for angiogenesis, we require some growth factors. For example, vascular endothelial growth factor, fibroblast growth factor, and platelet-derived growth factor receptors. So these are all the receptors on which it combines, and there is formation of newer and newer blood vessels. Now what do you have to do? We have to inhibit the angiogenesis. If angiogenesis is inhibited, there is no supply of blood into the tumor region. When there is no blood, automatically the cells will be killed off. So this can be possible by means of matrix-derived endogenous inhibitors of angiogenesis or non-matrix-derived endogenous inhibitors of angiogenesis. Example, arrestin, canstatin, collagen fragments, etc. Whereas in case of non-matrix, it is angiostatin, antithrombin 3, chondromodulin, troponin 1, and vasostatin. The third process is sustaining proliferative signaling. So for proliferation, we require some signal. The cells require some signal. Receptor interaction. So what happens here? Normal cells rely on positive growth signal from other cells, whereas cancer cells reduce the dependence on growth signal. It is independent of the growth signal. How? The production of their own extracellular growth factors. So here you can see this growth factor, which is can combine with the growth factor receptor that leads to intracellular signaling. So there will be production of their own extracellular growth factors or overexpression of the growth factor receptor, upregulation of the receptor. The receptors are excess, overexpression, or always there will be alterations in the intracellular components of signaling pathway. Now, this can be inhibited. Overexpression of the receptors or gene can be inhibited. Some drugs, for example, the drug of choice for breast tumor is tamoxifen, receptor antagonist. Receptor antagonist. Now you can see here in normal breast tissue cell, the HER2 gene, HER2 gene is expressed the cell surface receptor required for normal cell growth. Whereas in case of breast cancer, the protein receptors are overexpressed. You can see the pink color. HER2 gene is overexpressed. When the HER2 gene is overexpressed, automatically there will be rapid proliferation of the cells that leads to cancerous cell growth. Usually, 30 to 40% of the fertile women are experiencing some or other problems, for example, excessive bleeding or cyst in ovaries or fibroid in uterus, something like that. So the irregularity in menstruation or cyst in ovaries or fibroid in uterus are only because of the overexpression of this estrogen HER2 gene. So this is the reason for 30% of the breast cancer. What you have to do? Herceptin. Now it is called trastuzumab. It is an antibody. It's a monoclonal antibody. Herceptin is a monoclonal antibody that can able to block the cell surface receptor and thereby prevents the further growth. So now this drug discovery is based on the pathophysiology of the breast cancer. Now here you can see some of the anti-cancer drugs that target. For example, here you can see tamoxifen. I said it is an estrogen receptor antagonist used for the treatment of breast cancer. Letrozole, it is aromatase inhibitors. It is also used in the treatment of breast cancer. Now, I am coming for the second part of my lecture. The first part I have told you the newer methods of drug discovery process that is based on the pathophysiology. And the second part of my lecture is drug repurposing. So what is meant by repurposing? Just I would like to give you a common example of aspirin. It is 125 years old. You might have seen the first pack of aspirin by a company in my first slide. 1897. 1897, the first pack of aspirin by Bayer was released. Usually, an apple per day keeps the doctors away. An apple per day keeps the doctors away. An aspirin per day keeps all the cardiovascular complications away. An aspirin, how much? 60 milligram or 75 milligram. The dose of aspirin for analgesic is 300 milligram. But for prevention of the myocardial infarction, for antiplatelet activity, the dose of aspirin is 75 milligram per day. So now we know what is meant by drug repurposing. Aspirin was originally developed as an analgesic and anti-inflammatory. Nowadays, no one is using aspirin as an analgesic or anti-inflammatory. Almost all cardiovascular patients were taking aspirin. Why? Because it inhibits aggregation of the platelet. If we can inhibit the aggregation of the platelets, automatically we can avoid the myocardial infarction, because aggregation of the platelets is one of the reasons for myocardial infarction. Right. Now, what is repurposing? The process of finding new uses outside the scope of original medical indications for existing drugs is known as redirecting, repurposing, repositioning, reprofiling, retasking, rescuing, or therapeutic switching. So it's a very fine word, therapeutic switching. It is switched over for some other conditions. That is called a therapeutic switching. Now, here I have three kinds. One is generic, second is novel, the third one is repurposing. What is meant by generic? Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Janshakti Pariyojana. Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Janshakti Pariyojana, it is a campaign launched by the Department of Pharmaceuticals by Government of India to provide quality medicines at the affordable price. The Janshakti medical store you can find anywhere. Generic medicines alone sold in this particular place at a very cheap price, but without any compromise on the quality of medicine. All these generic medicines were analyzed by NABL approved laboratories. What is NABL? As you know, like NBA, NAC accreditation for educational institution, National Accreditation Board for Laboratories, NABL. At NABL will inspect the laboratories and give approval. So all the generic drugs which is available in the market has to be approved, analyzed by the NABL approved laboratories. So if why generic medicines are at a low price? As you know that these are all pharmaceutical drugs that contain the same chemical substances as a drug that was originally protected by chemical patent. Previously, it was protected by chemical patent. What is the duration of the patent period? It is 15 years. So when the original patent expire, automatically all the companies will come forward to synthesize that particular drug molecules. So automatically, when a number of companies are coming forward, the price will comes down. Very good example is atorvastatin. One strip is 100 rupees. At the same time, one strip of 10, we can get it for 10 rupees from the Janshakti medical stores. This is a generic medicine. Now the novel drugs repurposing drugs, you can see, I said that initial, in this pandemic situation, if you go for novel drugs, the time to approval of marketing approval authorization, it takes 12 years with the expenditure of $1,000 million US. The duration of the clinical trial is 6 years. And the success rate is only 0.01%. Out of 10,000 molecules, one drug will come into the market. The crores and crores of people have been suffered by COVID-19. Now, is it possible to discover newer drugs during the short period of time? It is not possible. So then what we are using? We are using hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine is a very old drug. So that means hydroxychloroquine is repurposed for the treatment of COVID-19. So here, duration of the clinical trial is very less because, as you know, the clinical trial in first phase is on healthy human volunteers. No preclinical trial because the drug is already existing. No phase 1 clinical trial because phase 1 is on healthy human volunteers. It has been carried out. And phase 2 and 3 is diseased volunteers. Diseased human volunteers. For repurposing of existing drugs, we can directly go for the phase 2 and 3 clinical trials. So success rate is 30%. Success rate is 30% and use probable diseases. Now, the drug repurposing is possible by two approaches. One is called computational approaches. Second is called experimental approaches. Now, what is experimental approaches? The one is binding assays to identify the relevant target interaction with the help of affinity chromatography or mass spectrophotometry. Whereas for phenotypic screening, we can go for high throughput screening using in vivo disease models. You know what is high throughput screening model, screening methods, which is the basis of a drug discovery process. Whereas the computational approaches, that is based on the computation, 6 subdivisions. One is signature matching. What is signature matching? Use of the signatures such as transcriptomic. There are so many omics. It is transcriptomic, structural or adverse effect profile with that of another drug or disease phenotype. How the adverse reaction can be modified into the useful reaction, I will give example later. The molecular docking. Almost I have been reviewing a number of theses all over India, especially from JNTU, Hyderabad, all JNTU, Kakinada, Hyderabad, and Kakinada, Hyderabad, and Anandapur. I used to receive theses for evaluation. Almost each and every student used to do molecular docking studies because it is a very base for the drug discovery process. No expenditure, no utilization of the animals. So the bioinformatics modeling, which involves the interaction of 2 or more adduct molecules, 2 or more molecules to give stable adduct. That is the basis of molecular docking. So depending upon the binding properties of ligand and target, it predict 3-dimensional structure. Docking score and binding energy may be calculated. 67 softwares are available. 67 softwares. Some of the softwares were freely downloadable by using Lipinski rule of 5. Lipinski rule of 5. What is the hydrogen bond donor capacity, acceptor capacity? What will be the molecular weight, log P value? So based on this Lipinski rule of 5, you can predict the physical chemical property of drug molecules. The genetic association, I have been discussing about HER2 gene in breast cancer. So this may also prove a potential drug target. Pathway mapping, that is very important. I will be discussing about the 6 pathways for drug repurposing. Then retrospective clinical analysis, which is nothing but analysis of the electronic health records, clinical trial data, and post-marketing surveillance. So from the post-marketing surveillance, we have discovered a number of drugs. The last one is a novel data sources. Large-scale in vitro drug screening is possible by means of this particular processes. So this is the basic of repurposing of drugs. It is a promising field of drug discovery that identify new therapeutic opportunities for existing drugs. But in order to avoid some of the most expensive drug discovery, as I said, the drug discovery process is most expensive, but the companies pursue the repurposing strategies to increase their productivity by decreasing the cost of discovery. Now here you can see the some of the paper, molecular docking and dynamic simulations for antiviral compounds against SARS-CoV-2. The existing antiviral compounds have been utilized for the treatment of SARS-CoV-2. This is an Elsevier journal from your state only, the Telangana, Andhra Pradesh. So here searching inhibitors for three important proteins of COVID-19 through molecular docking studies. Here you can say the most important proteins involved in the pathophysiology of SARS-CoV-2 is RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, angiotensin converting enzyme, and spike glycoprotein. So these three important proteins are kept as a target for our molecular docking studies. Based on that, and Madhusudan and Sir was telling about the novel bioactive components. Here you can see the terpenoids-based phytochemicals. Terpenoids-based phytochemicals, example, limonene and scopodulcic acid, inhibitory action on these particular important proteins. The molecular docking studies of potential drug candidates showing anti-COVID-19. This paper was in the Eurasian Journal of Medicine and Oncology. Here we can see some of the drug molecules of oseltamivir, ritonavir, remdesivir, ribavirin, favipiravir. So these remdesivir and favipiravir, you might be knowing very often we are seeing in the television news the utilization of the remdesivir and the favipiravir against the SARS-CoV. Apart from antiviral compounds, chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine is also have a binding interaction at the spike glycoprotein and ACE2 complex. Here again, an analytical evaluation of the COVID-19 main protease of the clinically approved drugs. Here we can see here limicycline and mesalazine. Limicycline. So this particular author tried drugs belonging to four categories: antibacterial, anti-infective, and antihistamine. So eight compounds they have been studying. Out of these, limicycline and mesalazine appeared as potential inhibitor of a particular protease. So this gives an idea about the molecular docking studies. By using molecular docking studies, it is possible to repurpose the drug molecules. These are some of the examples where the drugs are repurposed. For example, Astamizole, we know Astamizole is a once a day non-sedative antihistamine. Astamizole is a once a day non-sedative antihistamine. Now it is used for the treatment of malaria. Tamoxifen estrogen receptor antagonist anti-cancer. Now it is used for leishmaniasis. So mostly the repurposing is possible for pandemic diseases or neglected tropical diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, leishmaniasis, African sleeping sickness, Chagas disease, etc. Again, these are some of the drugs. I would like to give one example of, for example, colchicine was originally developed for the treatment of gout. Now it is used for Mediterranean fever. Azathioprine for rheumatoid arthritis. Now it is for renal transplantation. Now, This is most important part of my lecture. There are 6 pathways by which the drug can be repurposed. The pathway 1 is drug is serendipitously tested. Serendipitously means accidentally, and found to be effective in another disease. Thalidomide, without mentioning the thalidomide, if you take any pharmacological lecture, definitely they say thalidomide tragedy, 1960s. Where number of children were born with abnormalities in the limbs, sealed limbs, Pocomilia, right? Thalidomide was originally indicated for morning sickness in case of pregnant women. Now, because the thalidomide can able to cross placental barrier, it crossed the placental barrier and entered into the maternal circulation, and it produced fetal abnormalities, that is Pocomilia. Now the thalidomide is used for the treatment of leprosy and multiple myeloma. Bupropion, it is used for the treatment of depression. It is an antidepressant. Bupropion is an antidepressant. Now it is used for the treatment of obesity. The second pathway is a drug is found to have novel activity, selectively kill cells in another disease. Again, I will come for PhD thesis evaluation or MPharm thesis evaluation, irrespective of their specialization, whether it is natural chemistry or synthetic chemistry or pharmacology or pharmacognosy. Definitely they will go for cytotoxicity assay, MTT assay, or time viable test, a cell inclusion study or cell exclusion study. They use some of the cell lines, cancer cell lines. Now, nelfinavir is a potential protease inhibitor. Nelfinavir is a potential protease inhibitor. It was effective against 60 types of cancer cell line. 60 types of cancer cell line. For example, Ehrlich's ascites carcinoma, Dalton's ascitic lymphoma, sarcoma 180, leukemia 1210, HepG2, like that. Originally, it is for antivirus, viral. But it was effective against 60 cancer cell lines. During the literature survey, I have seen that it was effective against 60 cancer cell lines. So now it is used for the treatment of cancer. The third pathway is the drug is found to potentially inhibit targeting another disease. Example, imatinib or sunitinib. Imatinib was used originally for chronic myeloid leukemia. Now it is used for gastrointestinal stromal tumor. Sunitinib, originally for gastrointestinal stromal tumor, but now it is used for pancreatic tumor. That means the target is same. Now, pathway 4 is protein is found to be an important target in another disease. Whether I have taken MTOR. MTOR is nothing but mammalian target of rapamycin. Mammalian target of rapamycin is MTOR. The new role is revealed for an existing target protein. MTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, is a key protein controlling the cell growth and division, was identified as a target for immunosuppression also. Immunosuppression. Example, everolimus, it is an immunosuppressant. And now, everolimus is also used for the pancreatic tumor because MTOR is also involved in pancreatic tumor. You have to listen carefully. MTOR is also involved in immunosuppression, also pancreatic tumor. Now, next is ALK, anaplastic lymphoma kinase. It is a membrane receptor tyrosine kinase involved in insulin signaling. It is also a target for immunosuppression. So, crizotinib, it is an anaplastic lymphoma kinase inhibitor used for the treatment of non-small lung cancer. Now, the pathway 5 is found to be important in another disease, the same pathway. Example, Dulixtin. You know Dulixtin? It is used for the treatment of depression. How? 5-hydroxytryptamine, noradrenaline, reuptake is inhibited by Dulixtin. 5-hydroxytryptamine, noradrenaline reuptake is inhibited by Dulixtin. However, this neurotransmitter, 5-hydroxytryptamine, as well as the noradrenaline, is also involved in the spinal cord activation of external urethral sphincter and also in fibromyalgia. Dulixtin is used to originally developed for depression. Now it is used for the treatment of fibromyalgia. Now the pathway 6 is based on unexpected side effect found during clinical trial. Minoxidil is a vasodilator used for the treatment of hypertension. What happened when the minoxidil was administered for women? They found that hirsutism. What is hirsutism? Growth of hair in female body. Growth of hair in female body is called hirsutism, which is the side effect of minoxidil. Now, minoxidil is used for the treatment of alopecia, loss of hair growth. The best example for repurposing is sildenafil. Sildenafil, the famous name is Viagra. Viagra is nothing but sexual stimulant. Viagra is nothing but sexual stimulant. It is also a vasodilator, originally developed for the treatment of hypertension. What happens in this vasodilation means there will be increased blood flow. Because of the dilation, there will be increased blood flow. Now, the blood vessel which supplies to male sex organ was dilated much and compared with other blood vessels, so that rushing of blood into the male sex organ. Rushing of blood into male sex organ, that leads to erection. The people have been suffering by a disorder called erectile dysfunction in case of alcoholics, in case of diabetes, in case of obesity, in case of hypertension. There may be possibilities of the erectile dysfunction. So this can be avoided by administration of the sildenafil. This is also best example for our repurposing. Now, repurposing of drugs for SARS-CoV. Here I have given the simple pathophysiology. Because this slide I will be explaining only the pathophysiology. Now this is SARS-CoV. If I say about SARS-CoV, it will be a premature talk because for past 6-7 months we have been talking about this SARS-CoV. The webinar is because of the SARS-CoV. Otherwise, we never come across about the webinars. We have only seminars. Now we are in webinars because of this. So here you can see spike protein ACE2 receptor. This is our microorganism and this is the host cell. You can see here the host cell ACE2 receptor and transmembrane protein protease serine 2 receptor. This is another receptor. Right now, you can see there is this combined attachment and penetration. After this attachment and penetration, there will be decoding, and that is uncoating. Because of the uncoating, there will be release of the genome. It is RNA containing virus. SARS-CoV is a RNA containing virus. Okay. And now this RNA undergoes translation, formation of the polypeptide. This polypeptide undergoes proteolysis to form non-structural proteins. From the non-structural proteins, with the help of RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, there will be synthesis of RNA, then structural protein assembly, then budding. Budding is always called the exocytosis. This is called the endocytosis. Endocytosis means in, and this is exit. This is entry, and this is exit. The target organ of SARS-CoV is our alveoli, that is the host cell. Now the repurposing strategies. You can see here, either by help of endocytosis or attachment and fusion, entry of the particular virus into the host cell. This is endocytosis. This is attachment to the corresponding receptors. Transmembrane protease serine 2. Transmembrane protease serine 2 or ACE2. And these are all the spike protein S1 and S2. After this attachment can be prevented. There are 4 mechanisms. One is virus attachment, either with the ACE2 or membrane fusion with the transmembrane protease serine 2 and the virus entry, endocytosis. So virus attachment, membrane fusion, virus entry. One is ACE2, another one is transmembrane protease serine 2, the third one is endocytosis. The second part is viral proteolysis, involvement of chymotrypsin-like protease or papain-like protease. Chymotrypsin-like protease or papain-like protease. The application by the replication complex that include RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. And there will be release of the host cytokine. Okay, now we will see repurposing of drugs. Now, the binding of this particular SARS-CoV with the transmembrane protease serine 2. This with this. This with this can be inhibited by nafamostate, camostate. Nafamostate is inhibitor, antiviral, anticoagulant, and anti-cancer. Camostate is a protease inhibitor used for the treatment of chronic pancreatitis and also for post-operative reflux esophagitis. Camostate, post-operative reflux esophagitis. Usually for reflux esophagitis, you will go for cisapride. But here it is a post-operative reflux esophagitis, so that can be inhibited by these particular drugs. Then binding of this with the ACE2 can be inhibited by chloroquine. The endocytosis inhibited by imatinib. The endosome, when it undergoes acidification, automatically there will be release of the genome RNA. Endosome, and it undergoes acidification, there will be release of genome, that is called endosomal acidification, that is prevented by the chloroquine. Because be a weak base. Chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine are weak base. Definitely that interfere with the endosomal acidification. Then, after the release of genome, that undergoes translation by host missionary. For the translation require PP1A and PP1AB, which is a nucleoprotein phosphatase, and also two important protease. One is chymotrypsin-like protease, another one is papain-like protease. A chymotrypsin-like protease can be inhibited by lopinavir and ritonavir, whereas the papain-like protease is inhibited by disulfiram. Disulfiram, what is the use of disulfiram? Disulfiram is for the treatment of alcoholic de-addiction. Alcoholic addiction. To de-addict an alcohol addictive patient, we use disulfiram, which is a aldehyde dehydrogenase inhibitor. Now, disulfiram is employed for the treatment of SARS-CoV. After proteolysis, there will be formation of the replication complex, including RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. RDRP means RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, which can be inhibited by remdesivir and favipiravir. Now we are concentrating in this region only, remdesivir and favipiravir. Is it a new drug? No, it is an existing drug. A protease inhibitor. It is antiviral drugs. If any drug can do with vir, ritonavir, remdesivir, favipiravir, vir means definitely it is antiviral. So that inhibits the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase. There is one drug called cyclosporine, which acts on calcineurin NF80 pathway, nuclear factor activated T cell pathway. The replication complex can also be inhibited by cyclosporine A. After this is release of the newly formed virion. That means exocytosis. Now, this exocytosis of newly formed virion can able to combine with antigen presenting cells. That is release of cytokine. As we know that 80% of the SARS-CoV patients are asymptomatic, no symptom at all. And 20% of the symptomatic patients now it is quarantine, home quarantine. The month of April, May and all, we have the quarantine is in the hospitals, but now no place in the hospital. So the patients are advised to go for home quarantine, isolation in home itself. Only 5% of the total SARS-CoV require the hospitalization. Out of this, 1 or 2% require the ventilator. Which patients are require ventilators? Where the patients experiencing the cytokine storm. So what is cytokine storm? When this newly formed virion can able to combine with the antigen presenting cell, automatic release of cytokine, that cytokine can able to produce respiratory arrest, so that we have to go for ventilation. So that can be inhibited by sarilumab and docilizumab. Sarilumab and docilizumab. These are all interleukin 6, act on interleukin 6 receptors, which was originally used for the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis. Sarilumab is for rheumatoid arthritis, docilizumab is for multiple sclerosis. Now it is used to prevent hyperinflammation in the lungs because of release of cytokine. So these two slides explains a repurposing of approved drugs for targeting the SARS-CoV. This is an important part of my lecture. And why the patients are dying? Because of release of all the cytokine, interferon, tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 1 beta, interleukin 6, and interleukin 18 by various different cells. that is to these kind of clinical features. Now, ruxolitinib as under clinical trial by Incyte and Novartis. You know that these are very famous companies. Incyte and Novartis is under phase 3 clinical trial. Ruxolitinib is under phase 3 clinical trial, which can able to prevent the cytokine storm. The cytokine storm is the end stage of the SARS-CoV-2. The trial will compare outcomes of about 350 hospitalized patients, standard and test with the ruxolitinib or with the current best standard care without the particular drug. Favipiravir is already in the market by the company. You can see what is the use of favipiravir or what is the use of antiviral drugs. You can see here. In early stages, there will be high rate of viral replication, and it has to be controlled with the use of antiviral drugs. Antiviral drugs, whatever antiviral drugs I have mentioned, is used only in early stages, mild to moderate symptomatic patients. When the patients are converted into severe and critical state, no antiviral drugs are effective because the viral replication comes down in later stages. There will be a violent immune response in later stages that leads to multiple complications and organ failure. So this is the reason why many number of people were died because of the SARS-CoV. The favipiravir was marketed by Glenmark, and they said 5 reasons for this. One is it has proven in vitro activity against SARS-CoV-2 in vitro anti-SARS-CoV-2 activity. The second is it is wide therapeutic safety margin. You know what is meant by safety margin. The third one is it already has shown promising result in couple of studies in China. The reference is also they are given 3 and 4. The advantages of favipiravir is it is an oral product. It is available in the form of a tablet. The more advantage of favipiravir is it was already approved for one more pandemic disease, that is influenza virus. Influenza virus, it was a previous pandemic disease. It was more in Japan, so it already was approved for novel or re-emerging pandemic influenza virus infection in Japan. Now, the favipiravir mechanism is, I earlier said, it is RNA-dependent RNA polymerase inhibition. Now, there may be chances of the synergistic effect when favipiravir is combined with the imifinavir. Favipiravir with the imifinavir. Favipiravir inhibits the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, whereas imifinavir can inhibit the attachment and the fusion. The first stage is attachment and fusion. That state itself inhibited by imifinavir. This is what I said, how hydroxychloroquine is used for the treatment of SARS-CoV. This is endosome. This is endosomal acidification, the release of the genome. The lysosome proteases are important in activating the coronavirus surface protein for membrane fusion as well as uncoating. So that will be prevented by hydroxychloroquine because it is a weak base. Since it is a weak base, the pH will get increased. When the pH is getting increased, automatically there won't be endosomal acidification. Here you can see azithromycin. Azithromycin effective against pathogens of respiratory tract, as you know that it is used for throat infection. Here, one International Journal of Antimicrobial Agents published a paper with the combination of hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin. So, open label, non-randomized clinical trial. Here, what they used is they have taken 42 COVID-19 patients. Out of 42, 26 were treated with hydroxychloroquine. 16 were kept as control. 16 control, normal care, without any drug treatment. 26 patients were treated with hydroxychloroquine. What happened? Out of these 26 hydroxychloroquine treated patients, 20 patients completed the study only with hydroxychloroquine. Remaining 6 patients treated with azithromycin. So totally, after the treatment, 6 days study, the patients were sampled and they undergone PCR test positivity. They found that most of the 16 control patients, about half of the 14 hydroxychloroquine treated patients, and none of the 6 hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin treated patients were PCR positive. That means 14 hydroxychloroquine treated patients means 7. Hydroxychloroquine, if the patients are treated with hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, there is no positivity, means they are negative for coronavirus. So this study explains the combined administration of the hydroxychloroquine with the azithromycin as a success therapy in COVID-19. We have been discussing about ACE. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor have been used for the treatment of hypertension and drugs with captopril, lisinopril, enalapril, ramipril, etc., etc. They all inhibit the production of the angiotensin II. So, is there any possibilities of utilizing these ACE inhibitors for the treatment of COVID-19? Yes, it is possible. Here you can see, and the angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2 with the help of ACE1. There will be cleavage of the 2 amino acids. And 2 amino acids are cleaved from angiotensin 1, that leads to angiotensin 2. This angiotensin 2 cleaves 1 amino acid with the help of ACE2, and there is formation of the angiotensin 1 to 7. So, now what happens? The SARS-CoV can able to combine with the ACE2, can able to combine with the SARS-CoV, so that angiotensin 2 will remaining as angiotensin 2, it may not be converted into angiotensin 1 to 7, so that it can prevent it from breaking down angiotensin 2 into angiotensin 1 to 7. So there may be potential contributing to the lung inflammation that makes COVID-19 so deadly. Angiotensin 1 to 7. This is very much important. Now there are some vaccines. I don't want to go this because I will be discussing about only drugs. Here, what I would like to say is 12 vaccines were under clinical trial. Out of these, one company from China have completed the studies, and soon we will get the vaccines for COVID-19. And this is plasma therapy. You know how COVID-19 patients who recovered COVID-19 patients, we have been isolating the plasma. That plasma is infused to the COVID-19 patients. So once a person recovers from COVID-19, he develops antibodies found in plasma or liquid part of blood. Now, the last advancement is a medical device called the cytosorb. Cytosorb is a medical device like renal dialysis. We'll be dialysing the blood in case of a kidney failure. Now, with the help of the medical device cytosorb, the blood can be dialyzed. That means it absorbs whatever the cytokine which is present in the blood. I said cytokine storm is the reason for death. So the Drugs Controller General of India have approved a device which is developed by the Biocon. Already it was approved by US FDA. Now it was approved by Drugs Controller General of India also. It is an extracorporeal blood purification device. Extracorporeal blood purification device. Right. So it was biology. I will take another 2-3 minutes. Now the time is already 11:58. So repurposing of drugs for the treatment of cancer, it is called redirect. Aspirin for the treatment of colon cancer, it is under phase 3 clinical trial. Nitroglycerin and anti-anginal drugs used for the treatment of lung cancer. Prosper, beta blocker, perioperative use of beta blocker as an anti-inflammatory drug for the treatment of pancreatic cancer is under clinical trial. And there is possibilities of the treatment of Alzheimer's disease with the help of antihypertensive, antidepressant, anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, angiotensin receptor blocker, antiviral and antimicrobial drugs. So now, I think I will come to the end of my lecture because of the time restraint. I will explain only one slide. Here, how targets should be developed for genetic disease. That's all. If a gene is missing or defective, the gene is missing, you have to replace it. If it is defective, you have to replace the activity. If a gene is overexpressed, we have to develop inhibitors of synthesis. Usually, the DNA sequence of all human beings is 99.9% identical. The difference is only 0.1%. That makes 3 billion separate spelling differences in a genome of 3 billion bases. Here, this will be my last slide. Now, you can see here, if we have wild type protein, we will have normal activity. Suppose if the genes are with the excess amino acid substitution, or there will be alteration in the splice variant, or there will be truncation of the protein, automatically there will be alteration of the activity. Here, the gene is deleted. Gene deleted means no activity. Here, the gene is duplicated. Duplicated means overexpression. So, if the gene is overexpressed, there will be increased activity. If the gene is deleted, there will be no activity. Now, there was a drug called okay. This is my last slide. Digibiotics. Like antibiotics, this is a digibiotics. Why digibiotics? Because development of resistance to antimicrobial drugs. More than 7 deaths per year all over the world because of the development of resistance to antimicrobial drugs. There will be 7 lakhs deaths every year, so that it is necessary to develop newer antimicrobial drugs with a new mode of action, which is possible by means of digitalized design of optimized molecules, improve the biological activities, elucidate and characterize the structures and interactions. So with this, I will be completing my lecture. If you have any queries, you can ask. Now it is over to the administrator. And I would like to thank the principal, my close friend. He was studying in our college, Madras Medical College, Dr. Madhusudan Shetty. And I like to thank the Madhusudana Reddy and all other organizers for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks. That was a fantastic talk and lecture from you. Thank you so much, sir, once again. Now I request any of the participants, if they have any queries or questions, kindly unmute your mics and you can interact with the speaker directly.
Any queries?
Hi, just one update on the favipiravir immunophobia combination. Just yesterday, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals has released latest combination drug trial data to Drug Regulatory Authority DCGI. So as per that,
Very good. Very good.
it is not available in public domain, but as per their announcement, there is no additional benefit of combining immunophobia with favipiravir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is possible. That's very good.
So this was official. This is official. The data is not in public domain, but it has been briefed to regulatory authorities in Delhi. So there is no additional effect that is coming out of the combination. So, and the favipiravir also, it's just as you rightly mentioned, it is just available in mild to moderate symptoms, and that too in a very early stage of the disease, in the first 4 days of the after infection.
Thank you for your information, sir. Thank you. So if any of the participants, if they have any queries or questions, you can kindly unmute your mics and you can talk to the speaker directly.
There are 112 participants. A very good response from college side.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, a question has been asked in the chat box. What's the role of aspirin in COVID-19 patients? How it is useful in preventing the mortality? Any chance
yes,
of amantadine hydrochloride to act as an antiviral drug?
Which one, sir? Which hydrochloride?
Amantadine hydrochloride.
Amantadine, no, amantadine is not possible, sir. Amantadine, even though it have antiviral property, it is not possible to use amantadine. But aspirin also, aspirin is can be used for the treatment of cancer, but not the SARS-CoV-2.
So,
Amantadine is an antiviral and anti-Parkinsonism drug. It is not employed here.
Thank you, sir. Any other participants any other questions from the participants? So in that case, we are going to close the session. Thank you so much, sir. With the permission of the organizers, Shantaram College of Pharmacy wants to felicitate our today's keynote speaker, Kavimani sir, virtually. Sir, kindly accept our virtual felicitation in this regards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
We are at the
principal
end
and the director, sir. Thank you.
We are at the end of the session, sir. Thank you so much. Now I request Mr. Ravi Kumar, sir, to kindly propose a vote of thanks. Ravi Kumar, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Saksha. So myself, K. Ravikumar, the coordinator of this today's event. So I feel privileged to propose the vote of thanks. Sir. I, on behalf of Shantaram College of Pharmacy, I extend my heartfelt thanks to our eminent and renowned Professor S. Kavimani Garu to share his valuable experience and knowledge, especially on this new topic, the new directions for drug discovery and drug repurposing, sir. So this is a very, very valuable session, sir, which is very important in this for the pandemic diseases in this COVID situation, sir. So I am very, we are very thankful to enlighten our minds of our students and staff by giving your valuable lectures, sir. Thank you very much. So thank you for sparing your valuable time in this webinar program, sir. Thank you for your pleasing acceptance, even in spite of your busy schedule. You had given a valuable time for us, sir. Thank you very much. And about a special thanks to our principal, sir, and management who had given an opportunity in conducting this webinar program, sir. And a special thanks to our co-convener of this today's event, Dr. M. Srinivas, sir, who had pulled up and had put all the efforts in inviting all the guest lectures for this international webinar program. I'm also, I extend my thanks to Dr. Ishak, sir, who had given a good technical support in conducting this event. And I extend my thanks for Dr. K. Shivaya, sir, okay, who had taken the initiations in conducting this session. And last but not least, so I'm heartful thanks to all the participants, both the staff members and the students who had listened patiently listening this webinar. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity.
Thank you.
I hand over to Shaks.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. So that's all for the morning session. Today afternoon, we are going to have another session, another more informative session by Dr. G. Srinivas, sir. Just now you heard saw him on the screen. Thank you so much, Kavimani, sir. Thank you so much for all the participants for joining with us today.
We will join
Signing it off.
2:30.
Thank you so much.